Hello everyone, I'm Forrest McFreelove, and this is Mayan Speedplay number 23. We left off about to declare war on Brazil, our former ally who decided they weren't quite too fond of us when we started conquering everyone around them. Well, anyway, we're about to conquer them as well, or at least do a bit of damage to their state. We have 4 armies of around 24,000 men, which we're going to try to bring to bear. Evidently, though, they have quite a large number of high-level forts, which makes invasion a little bit difficult. We have 48,000 men trying to move up, however now there are rebels up there, so we might have to move some forces away. Unfortunately, we really did poorly with that troop positioning. The forts really threw me off, and I probably could have reacted better. At any rate, we do win a follow-up engagement, and we are chasing the Brazilian army into their hinterland. However, we have to go around the forts in an awkward manner. We rush our other 24 stack, which we brought up from the south, and we do win that battle. We can't really pursue them, though, since that force is now too weak. We go ahead and build more mercenaries to replace, and we destroy these rebels, kind of just letting their army rebuild, although hopefully it won't be too much of an issue. We do have quite a few areas where rebels can spawn in, and we are going to start raising additional troops, just a bunch of mercenaries. For whatever reason, it looks as though there's some sort of issue where instead of spreading out over just a large number of areas, auto-built groups are building in one province only. So we have to manually build armies. It's a slight inconvenience, but nothing too bad. At any rate, we do continue to just fight. We are getting these reinforcements up. We've run out of manpower, so mercenary infantry is the way to go, as it really always has been and always probably will be. So we managed to just wreck through that army. It isn't their main force, which is somewhere in their interior. We are still colonizing the Philippines pretty well, which is nice. And ultimately just picking up more troops. Hopefully we will get this all worked out fairly soon. We do have issues with rebels, but just in various islands off in the distance. We do start raising autonomy in all the areas we took from the British Empire in the last war, simply because let's not deal with rebels on islands just in the distant Pacific Ocean. That is too much of a problem. Alright, well, that all said and done, we do manage to win 1 siege, so we'll just go ahead and attack for another. We go ahead and ship more mercenary reinforcements over. It looks like that army is unfortunately going to be caught and, yeah, just defeated. We do manage to make them retreat over to the rest of the army. And, alright, so it was probably a terrible mistake for us to split our armies into smaller groups than the Brazilian army. That is very apparent now. The British are once again back in the Americas, which is annoying. And our forces are, at this point, well, okay, we're just colonizing in part just wherever we can, mainly the Philippines, since we'll just go to war with the British and Aragon to take that bit of South America. The Ottomans are colonizing quite extensively in the Pacific, which is a bit odd. We are also, okay, we are in a battle, which we are losing once again. Alright, so this war against the Brazilians has proved to be a little bit more of a quagmire than I had anticipated. Luckily, we do have considerable forces moving in against them right now, including a large force heading up that will hopefully be able to deal with them alone. We are not going to do that, though. We're going to unify our forces and charge right in, hopefully meeting them on the same day. And now we will chase them down and hopefully just destroy their army once and for all and get to a much more pleasant part of this war where we're just, taking their territories. Unfortunately, we don't stack wipe them. We do raise additional infantry since we are pretty much just out of infantry right now. And we do have some small forces which we can bring to bear in other locations. We are stack wiping small groups which are just not brought up with the others, and we're going to start right now trying to take control over places in the middle of Brazil so that we will keep knowledge of troop movements through the areas, and thus we won't be caught off guard by their massive stack anymore. And we just conquered the last fort up in the north, so we can go ahead and split this army up. Now, hopefully these large forces near the southern portion are going to be large enough that we can intercept and destroy the Brazilian army when it comes. And there it is, sieging back one of those provinces. We are now swarming through the north, and we can hopefully intercept that Brazilian army, destroy them, and there we go. We have intercepted them, we are just wrecking them, and it looks as though we did stack wipe them, which is pretty fantastic. Alright, so now we're just going to take over all of the remaining Brazilian forces, keep moving south. We now have formed basically a wall of troops, and we're just pushing them down. We also raise autonomy in other islands so we don't have to deal with revolts. This is really the strategy we should have come into the war with. That is kind of apparent now. It would have been preferable had I noticed that before. Luckily, we're not in any major wars, so it doesn't really matter all that much that we were a little inefficient in the beginning, which is a weird euphemism for losing about 50,000 men. At any rate, we have basically sieged out the top half of their country. We're going to try to get their southern forts in the peace deal because they are all level 8 forts, and that is just horrifically tedious to siege out, especially because it means they have a zone of control that we won't really be able to get into and that they'll be able to keep making small armies out of. So yeah, they also send a force out to just attack our force sieging their capital. We just rush on in and stop that. Luckily, we stopped it soon enough that we are able to do that easily. The British are at war with Kong, so we go ahead and accept that call to arms. They are going to just take all of our islands and holdings in the British Isles, which really just kind of gets me out of the willingness to fight. So what we'll probably do is just continue to conclude this campaign against Brazil, hopefully be able to seize the British colony in South America, and from there I don't really mind the British Empire existing whatsoever. And there we go, we went and took it. So with that said and done, we're just going to continue grinding the Brazilians down. It looks like they'll accept our peace deal, so we go ahead and just take that. They now no longer have a coast or any of their nice forts. They'll probably end up rebelling at some point or another, but that's just how things go. We're going to merge our armies together and from there decide what to do with them. We should probably go attack the British home islands, but that is quite an investment. We can send our navy over to hopefully destroy part of their navy as they attack in West Africa. And okay, here we go. We get all of our armies together. We split it in half and split those apart. We're going to try to chase down and destroy what we can of this British fleet, which would hopefully be a pretty nice thing to get done. And there we go. We have attacked. And we bring our transports in, even though they're empty, just to fill out the fleet. So there we go. We sank a little bit of their navy, did some damage. Hopefully that'll slow down their progress in West Africa. We'll have to go to war against Aragon at some point to get those final 2 provinces, but I'm not in any rush to do that. And yeah, essentially we could go over and deal with that. We've lost all of our holdings nearby. We go ahead and turn the forts on so they can't just roll into those. And essentially we're going to just go over into Asia now. We're at war with the British Empire, and interestingly this was always the thing that stopped us from going into Asia, but at this point I really don't think they have the capability of slowing us down at all. Brunei has some islands in the Philippines, so we might go after them. And our armies are set up to go really anywhere, so we'll just send them to the Philippines and start moving into Asia. The British also have some areas in South Africa. We'll just march our garrison there to attack those. And then we'll go take over Brunei. They all have the Malacca trade zone. Malacca, probably how that's pronounced. So we'll try to set up our essentially global trading empire right now with trade all over from Asia. We also try to stop trade from getting outside of the Americas by collecting in Brazil. Ideally, we can collect in the Philippines, or not in the Philippines, in the Caribbean, but we don't have trade ships, so all that trade will just kind of get pulled into Europe, and I would rather prevent that while we have the opportunity. So we're just not going to collect in the Caribbean just yet, or we're not going to make it our primary center. We did take one of the 2 British colonies, the other one is already full, so we can't do much about it. Our nobility, I believe, or no, our clergy is about to seize power in something like 50 months. So we're just going to go ahead and take all of their estates from them. I know that that's probably going to be not an ideal long-term solution, but we've already gone through one estate rising, and I don't really want to do that again. Alright, we're getting our troops in position. Brunei, I can't imagine will be too serious of a threat. We go ahead and start unloading forces, and we're just going to move them over. First land adjacent to their capital, and then just go charge at their capital army. And we go ahead and seize one of their 2 colonies. The other one's already complete, so we'll just have to take that in the war, or when the war ends as a war goal. And we go ahead and purge the natives so that everyone will become our religion and culture. Alright, that all said and done. It's now going to be just us going around, sieging out the main areas of Brunei. The British are attacking us in South Africa, but I don't really care that much, since we can probably just piece them out at any point. Brunei has been colonizing kind of just tediously around the area, so we might have to go and drop some armies on their fortified island holdings. And we do have some issue with rebels, but we just raise autonomy, since we already make enough money, quite frankly. And with that said and done, we're just going ahead and sieging out their island. It's pretty straightforward. We go ahead and attack them, just doing tremendous damage against their army. Unfortunately, we get a bunch of rebellions in Brazil, which admittedly we kind of anticipated, although didn't really work to prevent or bring the forces to suppress. So that's kind of an opportunity lost. We go ahead and ship our army back over. We'll keep one in Brunei, just kind of sieging out their countryside. Hopefully we can get back to Brazil before we lose too much. And unfortunately, Brunei is not being as kind as Brazil had been and allowing us to just take over territories without sieging out their forts. So we're going to have to just siege out their forts while they go and do really just operations counter to us. No matter though, we just send our army around and it's kind of a cat and mouse game. We could drop our forces over in South Africa, we just go past it. It doesn't really matter all that much. And our army can still just wipe the floor with the Bruneian forces, so we just go ahead and do that. And we split our force up to just siege out 2 areas without forts. They still won't accept just us annexing them, which is admittedly a bit sensible. And we go ahead and raise additional mercenary infantry just to fill out the numbers for our army. We lose the stability, which is a bit sad, but, you know, it happens. We get a lot of events to gain stability as well, so you get some, you lose some, you win some, you lose some, whatever the phrase is. At any rate, we go ahead and remerge that army, attack the Bruneians, and raise additional mercenaries just to keep the momentum on our side as we really just kind of purge the area of hostilities. Alright, so this whole revolt is hopefully going to be settled fairly quickly. We'll probably have to deal with just constant revolts from these people for quite some time since they did take over a considerable number of provinces, which is in its own way rather unfortunate, although not the end of the world. We've been dealing with revolts throughout the empire just constantly. And quite frankly, the area, really no area, is so vital that it can't revolt. We raise even more mercenary infantry, and the idea is that we'll just fill out the numbers at this point. We continue to siege while the Bruneians counter-siege, and it's probably going to be just a little back and forth of this for quite some time. Our leader does have siege ability increases though, so that is good, and we have, you know, a decently sized force with good technology and blockades, so we'll probably outrun them. However, as the AI always seems to do, they win their sieges at a lower percentile, which is at least vaguely and somewhat distinctly annoying. We do start moving our forces over though. We're just going to keep the large stack on the fort, move other forces to take over the countryside, as is really the only way to do it, and we're just going to charge right on up before they can take over this area, which we managed to successfully do. Hopefully we will stack wipe them. We win the first battle, then stack wipe them when they try to retreat and realize they can't. Alright, so now we'll just take over all of their fortified islands and fully annex Brunei. We go ahead and upgrade our infantry since we had the ability, and we probably should have split that transport fleet in half. They get a massive peasant uprising, which quite frankly we'll just deal with the one on the area without too good of a fort and probably just make peace afterwards, because honestly I don't really want to fight their massive stack. We can just let them deal with it, and then once they succeed or fail against that, we'll go ahead and just not take areas with forts. Hopefully they'll go bankrupt and have to turn those forts off. Core everything else. They can keep that one capital province with the massive peasant rebellion. We'll add everything to a trade company and then probably go after Malacca next time. Thank you very much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Have a great day.